The massive Galactic Imperial fleet entered the Sol system with overwhelming force. 5,000 warships against Earth's small fleet of 37 vessels. The alien ships were huge. Each one looked like a floating city in space, covered in glowing weapons. Admiral G-Ho Park stood on the bridge of the EDS Resilience, Earth's largest defense ship. He was a tall man with short gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many battles. His hands were folded behind his back as he watched. The alien ships surround Earth's defensive line. "They've completely blocked all escape routes," said Commander Yunji Kang, his second in command. She was younger than Ji-Ho, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Our sensors count 5,217 enemy vessels." Ji-Ho nodded slowly. "And we have 37 ships." The bridge crew looked tense. Some typed quickly at their stations while others stood frozen, staring at the massive alien fleet on the main screen. The odds were impossible. Everyone knew it. "Sir, they're hailing us," said the communications officer, Dae-hyun. His voice was steady despite the fear everyone felt. Ji-Ho straightened his dark blue uniform. "Put them on screen." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face. The creature had blue skin and 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. It wore an elaborate golden helmet with strange symbols carved into it. Behind the alien commander, other, blue-skinned creatures worked at control panels. "Humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English, which surprised everyone. "I am Grand Admiral Zalvek of the Galactic Imperial Fleet. Your species has been observed violating 17 galactic protocols by developing unauthorized faster-than-light technology. Your punishment will be swift." The alien paused, all 4, eyes blinking at once. "Surrender your ships and submit to Imperial rule or face immediate annihilation." The bridge of the Resilience fell completely silent. Everyone looked at Admiral Park, waiting for his response. Commander Kang's hand moved slowly toward her weapon. What happened next would be remembered in history books for centuries to come. Admiral Ji-Ho Park laughed. It started as a small chuckle, then grew into a full, hearty laugh that echoed across the bridge. The crew stared at him in shock. Had their admiral lost his mind? Then something even more surprising happened. Lieutenant Han, the weapons officer, began to laugh too. Then Dae-hyun at communications. Soon, the entire bridge crew was laughing. On the screen, Grand Admiral Zalvek looked completely confused. All 4 of his eyes blinked rapidly. "Is this some human defense mechanism I am unaware of?" the alien demanded. Ji-Ho finally managed to stop laughing enough to speak. No, he said, wiping tears from his eyes. "It's just that..." He had to pause to catch his breath. "You traveled all this way to threaten us with your superior technology, yet you broadcast your communication protocols on an open frequency. We've already downloaded your entire tactical database." The alien commander's blue face turned a lighter shade. "That's impossible, is it?" Ji-Ho nodded to Commander Kang. She pressed a button on her control panel, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed detailed information about the Imperial fleet, their shield frequencies, weapon specifications, and complete technical schematics of their ships. "As you can see," Ji-Ho continued with a smile, "we know everything about your ships now, including their weaknesses." "This is some trick," Zalvek said, but his voice lacked confidence. "No trick," Ji-Ho replied. "Just human ingenuity. You see, Grand Admiral, while you were busy organizing your impressive fleet, our hackers were busy breaking into your systems. Your security is very orderly, very structured, too predictable." The Admiral walked closer to the screen. "Also, those 17 violations you mentioned? We wrote our own rule book. Humanity doesn't follow rules made by others without our consent." On the alien ship, alarms began to sound. One of the other blue aliens rushed to Zalvek and whispered something in his ear. The Grand Admiral's eyes widened. "What have you done?" he demanded. Ji-Ho smiled. "Just a small demonstration. We've temporarily disabled the weapons on your command ship. Nothing serious. They'll be back online in about 10 minutes." The bridge of the Resilience erupted in cheers. The human crew who moments ago had been preparing to die now celebrated their unexpected advantage. Jiho raised his hand, and the crew fell silent again. Now, shall we discuss terms of your surrender, Grand Admiral? Or would you prefer a demonstration of what humanity does when backed into a corner? Zalvek was visibly shaken. This is unprecedented. No species has ever laughed when you threatened them. Jiho finished for him. That's because you've never met humans before. We're different. Commander Kang stepped forward. Admiral Park, our analysis of their fleet is complete. Their ships outnumber ours, but we can disable their main weapons, systems remotely. Their armor is strong against energy weapons but vulnerable to our kinetic railguns. Jiho nodded. Thank you, Commander. He turned back to the screen. You have two options, Grand Admiral. First option, you leave our solar system immediately and never return. Second option, we disable your fleet and then have a longer conversation about humanity joining your galactic empire, but on our terms, not yours. The alien commander was silent for a long moment. In 10,000 years of imperial conquest, no species had ever gained the upper hand so quickly. No species had ever laughed in the face of the Empire's might. I must consult with Imperial Command, Zalvek finally said. Jiho smiled. Of course, you have 1 hour. After that, we'll assume you've chosen option 2. The screen went dark as the aliens cut the communication. The bridge was quiet for a moment before Lieutenant Han spoke up. Sir, do we really have control of their weapon systems? Jiho turned to his crew with a grin. We have control of exactly one ship's weapons, their command ship. Our tech team managed that much. The rest was just good old-fashioned bluffing. The Sai crew stared at him in amazement. Sometimes, Jiho said, confidence is the most powerful weapon of all, and humans have never lacked confidence. Commander Kang looked worried. And if they call our bluff? Jiho's smile faded. Then we fight with everything we have. But I'm betting they won't. They've never encountered a species that wasn't terrified of them. Fear is their weapon. And we just showed them we're not afraid. As the crew returned to their stations preparing for whatever would come next, Jiho looked out at the massive alien fleet surrounding Earth. In 1 hour, humanity would either be at war with a galactic empire or changing the course of galactic history. Either way, the fact that humans had laughed in the face of annihilation would never be forgotten. 3 days had passed since the first meeting with the Galactic Empire. Now Captain Tae-ho Kim sat in a large meeting room aboard the Imperial flagship. The room was bigger than his entire scout ship, the Curiosity. Everything on the alien vessel was enormous and built to impress. The walls glowed with strange blue light, and the air smelled like metal and something sweet he couldn't identify. Beside Tae-ho sat Dr. Soo-min Lee, Earth's best xenobiologist. She was a small woman with short black hair and intense eyes that missed nothing. She carried a tablet that contained all of humanity's knowledge about alien life forms. Across from them, Grand Admiral Zalvek and 5 other high-ranking Imperial officers sat stiffly in their seats. The blue-skinned aliens looked angry. Their 4 eyes blinked at different times, which Tae-ho found distracting. Let me understand this correctly, Zalvek said, his voice deep and rumbling. Your species discovered faster-than-light travel just 70 Earth years ago, and yet you have already developed technologies that our empire has not thought of in thousands of years. Tae-ho shrugged. We had good motivation. Meaning what exactly? Asked one of the other Imperial officers. When you are a species that evolved on a death world with thousands of predators trying to eat you, you learn to innovate quickly, Tae-ho explained. Earth is not a gentle planet. The aliens looked confused. Soo-min tapped on her tablet and pulled up a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed images of Earth's deadliest animals, natural disasters, and diseases. This is what we evolved alongside, she said. Bears, tigers, hurricanes, volcanoes, plagues. Humans had to become clever just to survive. The Imperial officers studied the images with their 4 eyes. One of them made a sound that might have been a gasp. And yet you survived, Zalvek said. Not only survived, but thrived, Soo-min corrected. She changed the display to show a comparison of human versus imperial technology. Your civilization took the linear path of technological development. Very orderly, very predictable. One discovery led naturally to the next with no surprises. She swiped to the next image. Humans, we take shortcuts, we experiment. Sometimes we blow ourselves up in the process, but we learn from our mistakes. Blow yourselves up? One of the aliens asked. Figure of speech, Teho said. Though sometimes literal too. Sumin continued, showing Earth's history of warfare. While your empire was enjoying 10,000 years of relative peace through controlling other species, humans were constantly fighting each other, developing better weapons, better defenses. We've had more technological advancement in the past century than your civilization has had in a millennium. The aliens looked uncomfortable. Salvek's aide leaned over and whispered something in his ear. The Grand Admiral's blue face turned a pale shade, almost white. Is something wrong? Teho asked innocently. We just received word that 3 of our garrison worlds have peacefully surrendered to human diplomatic envoys, Zalvek said, slowly. How is this possible? We have not even begun negotiations. Teho and Sumin looked at each other and smiled. Oh, that would be our mimetic warfare division, Teho explained. While you were focusing on our ships, we were broadcasting human culture, music, art, and ideas of freedom throughout your empire. Turns out many of the species you control find these concepts rather appealing. You cannot do this, shouted one of the Imperial officers standing up. This is an act of war. Actually, Sumin said calmly, sharing ideas is not an act of war under any galactic law we could find in your databases. Your empire has controlled information so tightly that most of your subject worlds never knew there were alternatives to imperial rule. The room fell silent. The humans hadn't just matched the empire technologically, they had already begun dismantling it with ideas. But why would our subject worlds want freedom? Asked a younger imperial officer, genuinely confused. The empire provides protection, structure, order. At what cost? Teho asked. No self-determination? No innovation? No art or music unless the empire approves it? Humans value freedom above almost everything else, and it seems we're not alone in that. Zalvek's aide whispered to him again. The Admiral's 4 eyes widened. 7 more worlds have declared independence, he said, his voice hollow. This is impossible. Not impossible, Sumin corrected. Just unexpected. You've ruled through fear for so long that you forgot there are other ways to organize society. She changed the holographic display again, showing Earth's various governments. Humans have tried many different systems. Some worked, some failed, but we always kept experimenting. Teho leaned forward. The question now is not whether your empire will change, but how. You can fight it and lose, or you can adapt and perhaps become something better. Are you threatening us? Zalvek asked. Not at all, Teho said with a smile. We're offering you a chance to evolve, to grow beyond what you've been for 10,000 years. Sumin added, perhaps we should discuss a mutual cooperation agreement rather than surrender terms. Humans have no interest in creating our own empire. We just want to be left alone to explore the stars in our own way. One of the younger Imperial officers spoke up hesitantly. What would this cooperation look like? Before Teho could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the flagship. A new officer rushed into the meeting room looking panicked. Grand Admiral, we've detected a massive energy signature at the edge of the system, the officer reported. It's unlike anything in our records. The holographic display in the center of the table changed automatically to show a strange object entering the solar system. It was enormous, larger than even the biggest Imperial ships. It wasn't a vessel, but some kind of machine with parts that moved in impossible ways. What is that? Zalvek demanded. Teho and Sumin looked as surprised as the aliens. Not one of ours, Teho said. The object sent out a pulse of energy that washed over the Imperial fleet. Immediately, several alien ships lost power and began to drift. It's disabling our systems, Zalvek's aide cried out. The Grand Admiral turned to the humans with suspicion. Is this some human trick? Sumin shook her head. No. Whatever that thing is, it's as alien to us as it is to you. Teho stood up, suddenly serious. We need to contact Earth. If that thing is hostile, we may need to work together. Zalvek stared at him for a long moment, all four eyes blinking, in sequence. Then he made a decision. Very well, the Grand Admiral said. It seems we have a common problem now. Let us see how humans face a threat they didn't expect. As Taiho established communication with Earth, he couldn't help but smile despite the danger. Just days ago, the Empire had been humanity's greatest threat. Now they might become allies against something even more mysterious. The strange object continued to advance into the solar system, disabling more Imperial ships as it came. Whatever it was, it would soon discover that humans didn't just laugh in the face of one galactic power. They would laugh in the face of any challenge the universe threw at them, and then they would find a way to win. 6 months had passed since the mysterious object appeared at the edge of the solar system. It turned out to be an ancient probe sent by a long-dead alien civilization. Once humans and Imperials worked together to communicate with it, the probe simply shut down and drifted away. This shared challenge had created an unexpected bond between the two civilizations. Now, a noisy karaoke bar in Seoul, South Korea, was filled with both humans and blue-skinned aliens. Director Sung-ho Choi watched with amusement as 3 junior Imperial officers tried to sing "Don't Stop Believin'" while drinking large amounts of soju, a strong Korean rice alcohol. Sung-ho was the head of Earth's First Contact Division. He was a tall man with a friendly face and a quick smile. Tonight he wore casual clothes instead of his usual formal uniform, as this was a cultural exchange event, not an official meeting. Grand Admiral Zalvek sat beside him at a corner table, looking completely bewildered by the scene. The Admiral had removed his grand helmet for the occasion, revealing 4 short antennae on top of his blue head. I don't understand your species, Zalvek said to Sung-ho as they watched the singing aliens. 6 months ago, you were facing extinction at our hands, yet you laughed. Now we're your allies, and you treat us like old friends. Sung-ho poured another small glass of soju for the Admiral. That's humanity's greatest strength. We can go from mortal enemies to best friends in the span of a single generation. We did it countless times throughout our history. Examples? Zalvek asked, sipping the drink cautiously. Well, humans fought terrible wars against each other. Countries like Japan, Germany, and the United States were bitter enemies. Now they're close allies. It only took a few decades to change. Nearby, Lieutenant Ha-Jun Yoon, a young human officer with a round face and bright eyes, was talking with a group of Imperial engineers. They were sitting around a table covered with empty bottles and food. So you're saying you only work for 5 days, then get 2 days off? Asked one of the alien engineers, looking shocked. Yes, we call it a weekend, Ha-Jun explained. And we get paid vacation time too. About 20 to 30 days each year when we don't work but still get paid. The aliens looked at each other in disbelief. These concepts had never existed in the Empire's rigid social structure, where most beings worked every day with only brief rest periods. But how does your economy function if people aren't working all the time? Another alien asked. Actually, we're more productive because we're well rested and happy, Ha-Jun said. Tired workers make mistakes. Zalvek shook his head as he overheard this conversation. The cultural contamination is spreading throughout our empire, he told Sung-ho. Just yesterday, one of my homeworld governors requested permission to hold something called democratic elections. The concept is absurd, is it? Sung-ho asked. Your empire has stayed the same for thousands of years because one small group makes all the decisions. Humans thrive because anyone can have a voice, anyone can innovate. As if to prove his point across the room, another group of humans and aliens were deep in conversation. Professor Mina Yoon, Ha-Jun's sister, was explaining something to an Imperial science officer who was frantically taking notes. Open source technology means anyone can improve it, Mina was saying. You share the knowledge freely, and everyone benefits. But how do you profit if you share your inventions? The alien scientist asked. There are many ways to profit besides keeping secrets, Mina explained patiently. The Empire's approach of controlling all technology has actually slowed down your progress. Zalvek sighed deeply. The strangest part is that my superiors are actually considering implementing some of these human ideas. 10,000 years of tradition, changing in just months. Sung Ho raised his glass in a toast. Change or die, that's the human way. We've nearly destroyed ourselves many times, but we always adapt. Now your empire can adapt too, or... He didn't finish the sentence, but Zalvek understood. The Empire wouldn't survive a war with these strange laughing creatures who turned enemies into friends and spread dangerous ideas like freedom and weekends. To adaptation, the Admiral said, raising his glass. To adaptation, Sung Ho agreed, with a smile. Later that evening, as the karaoke bar began to empty, a small group remained. Hajun had convinced several Imperial officers to try different Earth foods. They were now eating spicy Korean fried chicken with their fingers, something that would have been unthinkable in Imperial high society. This is remarkable, said one officer, her 4 eyes watering from the spice. On our world, only food preparation specialists handle food. We would never touch it with our hands. Sometimes the best experiences come from breaking the rules, Hajun said with a grin. Minna joined their table, bringing a tablet that showed images from across Earth. These are some of our natural wonders, she explained, showing pictures of mountains, oceans, forests, and deserts. Earth has many different environments. The aliens looked with interest. The Empire has many worlds, but most are carefully controlled, one explained. We reshape planets to match our preferences. That seems like a waste, Mina said. The beauty of nature is its wildness, its unpredictability. Unpredictability, Zalvek said from across the room. That word keeps coming up when discussing humans. Sung Ho nodded. It's what makes us who we are. Your empire values order above all. We value freedom even if it creates some chaos. A young Imperial officer who had been quiet all evening suddenly spoke up. I've been studying human history, she said. Your species has done terrible things to each other. Wars, genocide, environmental destruction. How can you be proud of such chaos? The room fell silent. The humans looked at each other, unsure how to respond to this difficult truth. Finally, Sung Ho spoke. You're right. Humans have done horrible things. We're not perfect. But we learn from our mistakes. Each generation tries to be better than the last. We don't always succeed, but we never stop trying. The young officer considered this. The Empire has been stable for 10,000 years, but we haven't grown or changed. Perhaps there is wisdom in your chaos. Hajun raised his glass. To learning from mistakes. Everyone, human and alien alike, joined the toast. As the night came to an end, Zalvek pulled Sung Ho aside. My superiors have made a decision, he said quietly. We will not attempt to conquer Earth. I'm glad to hear it, Sung Ho replied. However, the Admiral continued, we are concerned about the spread of human ideas throughout the Empire. Already 12 worlds are demanding independence. Sung Ho smiled. Ideas are like viruses, Admiral. Once they start spreading, they're hard to contain, especially good ideas. Zalvek looked troubled. The Empire has existed for 10,000 years. What will happen if it falls? Something new will take its place, Sung Ho said. Something better, I hope. Change isn't easy, but it's necessary. As they left the karaoke bar and stepped into the cool night air, humans and aliens walking side by side, no one knew what the future would bring. But one thing was certain, the universe would never be the same again. And somewhere in the vastness of space, other alien civilizations were about to discover that the species that laughed in the face of the mighty Galactic Empire was now spreading its strange ideas about freedom, weekends, and spicy fried chicken throughout the stars. 1 year into the Human Imperial Alliance, everything changed. General Jinwoo Quan stood in Earth's Unified Defense Command Center, watching as reports came in from across the galaxy. The large room was filled with screens showing maps, data, and video feeds. Officers rushed back and forth, their faces worried. Jin Woo was a stocky man with a serious face and short gray hair. He had spent 40 years in Earth's military and had seen many battles, but nothing like this. The Imperial fleets are being destroyed, reported analyst Young Mi Han. She was young but brilliant, with quick eyes and quicker fingers that flew across her keyboard. The Nexus adapts to their tactics within minutes. 23 worlds have already fallen. The Nexus. That was the name they had given to the new threat. It was an ancient machine intelligence from beyond the galaxy's edge. No one knew who had built it or why. They only knew it was destroying everything in its path. On the main screen, Jin Woo watched as footage showed Imperial ships being torn apart by energy beams. The once mighty empire that had nearly conquered Earth was now running away from this new enemy. Jin Woo turned to face the holographic projection of Grand Admiral Zal Vek. The blue alien looked tired, his 4 eyes dull with exhaustion. "How long, until they reach Earth?" Jin Woo asked. 3 weeks at most," Zal Vek replied. His voice was grim. "We've thrown everything we have at them. Nothing works. Their technology is millions of years beyond even yours." The command center fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. If the mighty empire couldn't stop the Nexus, what chance did Earth have? Then unexpectedly, Young Mi began to laugh. Jin Woo raised an eyebrow. "Analyst Han?" "I'm sorry, sir," she said, trying to stop laughing. "But don't you see? This is exactly the situation humans excel at, being hopelessly outmatched." Jin Woo stared at her for a moment, then a slow smile spread across his face. "You're absolutely right." "I don't understand," Zal Vek said from the holographic display. "There is nothing funny about our destruction." "Admiral Zal Vek," Jin Woo explained, "your empire has always relied on superior numbers and firepower. But humans, we specialize in fighting enemies stronger than us." Jin Woo turned to the command center staff. "I want every military strategist, every video game designer, every hacker, and every science fiction writer on Earth brought into this. We need ideas, crazy ideas, the kind of ideas the Nexus would never expect." Within hours, Earth had mobilized not just its military, but also its civilian population. In a large conference room near the command center, an unusual meeting was taking place. Soo-Jin Park, a famous video game designer, stood next to General Choi, a veteran military commander. They were both looking at battle plans. No, Soo-Jin said, pointing at the screen. "If this were a game, I would never send all my units in a predictable formation like that. The player would expect it. You need randomness." The general looked annoyed but listened. Nearby, a teenage hacking champion was working with military computer experts. In another corner, science fiction writers discussed impossible weapons with nuclear physicists. Jin Woo walked into the chaotic room with Young Mi beside him. "How is it going?" he asked. "It's a mess," Young Mi admitted, "but a creative mess." "Good," Jin Woo said. "The Nexus expects order and logic. We'll give it neither." 3 days later, Jin Woo presented their plan to Grand Admiral Zal Vek and the Imperial High Command. The aliens looked shocked as they reviewed the human strategy. "The Nexus adapts to patterns," Jin Woo explained. "So we'll give them no patterns to adapt to. Every human ship will fight differently. We'll use outdated technology alongside cutting-edge tech. We'll employ randomized tactics that make no logical sense." "That's madness," Zal Vek protested. "Military strategy requires order, discipline." Young Mi grinned. "Exactly. And that's why it will work. The Nexus expects logic, it doesn't understand human chaos." "What do you need from us?" Zal Vek asked, still doubtful. "We need 20 of your ships," Jin Woo said, "but we need to modify them." "Modify Imperial warships?" One of the alien commanders looked outraged. "Our technology is perfect." "Perfect means predictable," Young Mi countered. "We need to make them imperfect, unpredictable." Zal Vek was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Very well. You will have your ships." 2 weeks later, as the Nexus approached the Sol system, a strange fleet waited. 37 human ships and 20 Imperial vessels had been transformed. Some had been painted with bright colors. Others had their weapon systems completely rearranged. Many had computer systems that deliberately introduced random errors into their targeting. On the bridge of the flagship, now renamed Beautiful Chaos, Jin Woo stood with Young Mi and Zalvek. "All ships report ready," Young Mi said. "As ready as they can be, given the modifications." "The Nexus has been studying Imperial tactics for months," Jin Woo explained to Zalvek. "It knows exactly how you fight, but it has never seen humans before." The alien admiral's four eyes blinked nervously. "And you really believe this chaos will work against the most advanced machine intelligence ever discovered?" Jin Woo smiled. "Throughout human history, we've faced enemies that were stronger, faster, and better equipped than us. We've always found a way to win." "How?" Zalvek asked. "By doing what no one expects," Jin Woo replied. "By being unpredictable." The sensors beeped. Young Mai looked at her screen. "The Nexus has entered the system. 5 minutes until contact." Jin Woo took a deep breath and opened a channel to all ships. "This is General Quan. Remember your training. Or rather, forget your training. Be unpredictable, be irrational, be human." He turned to the weapons officer. "Load the special package into Torpedo Bay 1. "Special package loaded, sir," the officer replied. Zalvek looked confused. "What special package?" Jin Woo smiled. "A torpedo filled with chocolate pudding, laced with computer viruses." "Pudding?" Zalvek's four eyes blinked rapidly. "How will that help?" "It probably won't," Jin Woo admitted. "But the Nexus would never expect us to fire pudding at it. While it's trying to understand why we did something so illogical, our hackers will attempt to break into its systems." "And if that doesn't work?" Zalvek asked. "Then we try the next crazy idea," Young Mi said. "And the next, until something works." The massive shape of the Nexus appeared on their screens. It looked like a giant metal spider with long arms extending from a central core. Energy readings were off the charts. "All ships," Jin Woo ordered. "Execute Operation Beautiful Chaos. Each ship, follow your specific random protocol. No two ships should do the same thing." As the human and modified Imperial vessels moved into position, doing things no military strategist would ever approve of, Jin Woo felt a strange calm. Humans were facing their greatest challenge yet. And just as they had when facing the Empire, they responded with their greatest weapon: unpredictability. "The Nexus is scanning us," Young Mi reported. "It seems confused." Jin Woo smiled. "Good. Confusion is the first step to victory." He looked at the strange fleet of mismatched ships preparing to engage the seemingly unstoppable Nexus and gave the order that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. "Operation Beautiful Chaos is now in effect. Remember, everyone, be unpredictable, be irrational, be human." 5 years had passed since the Battle of Beautiful Chaos, as it was now known throughout the galaxy. The Nexus had been defeated, not by overwhelming firepower but by human unpredictability. The chocolate pudding torpedo had indeed confused the machine intelligence long enough for human hackers to find a way into its systems. Then, instead of destroying the Nexus, they had reprogrammed it, turning a weapon of destruction into a tool for communication and knowledge. Today, J.In. Park stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. She was the granddaughter of Admiral Jiho Park, the man who had first laughed in the face of the Imperial fleet. J.In. was younger than her grandfather had been, but she had the same confident smile and calm eyes. The council chamber was enormous, built on a neutral planet at the center of the galaxy. Representatives from 10,000 species sat in tiered seats that circled around the central speaking platform where J.In. stood. Some were former Imperial subjects, others were newly discovered civilizations. All had gathered to ratify the Galactic Constitution, a document that would forever change how the stars were governed. "My grandfather laughed in the face of annihilation," J.In. began, her voice clear and strong as it echoed through the vast chamber. "Not because he wasn't afraid, but because humans have always transformed fear into determination." The hall was silent as she continued. Many of the representatives had never seen a human before. They had only heard stories about the strange species that had defeated both the Empire and the Nexus. The Nexus was defeated not by superior firepower, but by humanity's chaotic nature, our ability to act illogically, our refusal to follow predictable patterns. What the Empire once saw as our greatest weakness proved to be our greatest strength. Former Grand Admiral Zalvek, now representing his homeworld as an elected official, nodded in agreement. The blue-skinned alien had changed much in 5 years. He no longer wore the elaborate golden helmet of Imperial command. Instead, he dressed simply, like the citizens he now represented. The Empire believed strength came from uniformity and order, J.N. continued. The Nexus believed strength came from perfect logic and prediction. Both were wrong. True strength comes from diversity, from chaos, from the beautiful unpredictability of all sentient life. She gestured to the document hovering holographically before them, the Galactic Constitution, with its first line clearly visible. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all sentient beings are created equal. This document isn't human or imperial, J.N. explained. It's something new, created from human ideals of freedom, imperial traditions of unity, and the unique perspectives of every species represented here today. As she stepped back from the podium, the voting process began. Each representative would cast their vote on whether to ratify the Constitution. J.N. moved to stand beside Hyunwoo Cho, the young captain who had led the final decisive battle against the Nexus. He had been just 25 years old then, commanding the strangest ship in the fleet, a vessel that had its weapon systems deliberately designed to malfunction in random ways, confusing the enemy. Do you think they understand? Hyunwoo asked quietly. That humans never wanted an empire? That we just wanted everyone to be free to choose their own path? J.N. watched as species after species voted to ratify the Constitution. Many had, cultures that had never known freedom before encountering humanity. I think they're beginning to, she replied with a smile. And that's the greatest victory we could have hoped for. As the voting continued, J.N. remembered the stories her grandfather had told her about the first contact with the Empire. How the Imperial fleet had surrounded Earth, threatening destruction. How the bridge crew had laughed, turning fear into strength. Now here she was watching as the galaxy transformed. The old empire was gone, replaced by a federation of free worlds. The Nexus, once a destroyer, now served as a vast library of knowledge, accessible to all species. A small blue-skinned child, the daughter of one of the representatives, approached J.N. curiously. Is it true that humans defeated the Nexus with pudding? The child asked. J.N. laughed. Partly true. We used pudding to confuse it, but we defeated it with unpredictability and cooperation. My father says humans are the strangest species in the galaxy, the child said. That might be true, J.N. admitted, but sometimes being strange is an advantage. The voting was nearly complete. On the main display, the tally showed overwhelming support for the Constitution. Freedom was winning. Salvek approached J.N. and Hyunwoo. Who would have thought, the former admiral said, that the species we once tried to conquer would teach us a better way to live? That's the thing about humans, Hyunwoo replied. We're always learning, always changing. We wanted you to have that chance too. My people resisted at first, Salvek admitted. 10,000 years of imperial rule. Left deep marks, but your ideas spread quickly. Freedom, democracy, weekends. He smiled at the last word, still finding the concept amusing. The final votes were cast. The Galactic Constitution had been ratified by an overwhelming majority. Cheers erupted throughout the chamber, 1,000 different species celebrating in 1,000 different ways. Some sang, some flashed colors across their skin, others released sweet-smelling clouds into the air. In the midst of the celebration, an emergency message appeared on J.N.'s communicator. It was from Earth's long-range exploration fleet. We've made contact with another galaxy, the message read. Their technology far exceeds our own. They're sending a diplomatic fleet. Arrival expected within 1 month. Jaein showed the message to Hyunwoo and Zalvek. For a moment they were silent, considering the implications. Then Jaein began to laugh, just like her grandfather had done when facing the Empire. Another challenge, she said. Another opportunity to learn and grow. Should we be worried? Zalvek asked. Worried? No, Hyunwoo said with a smile. Prepared? Yes. But whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Humans, former Imperials, and all the species of our galaxy. As the celebration continued around them, Jaein looked up at the star map that filled the ceiling of the council chamber. So many worlds, so many cultures, all now united not by force, but by shared values and mutual respect. The humans had faced a galactic empire and laughed. They had faced an ancient machine intelligence and laughed. And whatever came next from beyond the stars, they would face it with the same spirit. For that was humanity's greatest legacy, not conquest, not domination, but the spreading of freedom, cooperation, and the unshakable belief that even the smallest species could stand tall when facing the largest challenges. As the new Galactic Federation prepared to take its first steps into a larger universe, one thing was certain: the sound of human laughter would continue to echo among the stars.